Hi, this is Carrie Lynch, Grant Specialist at the New York State Archives. If you've been managing a grant through our Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund, or LGRMIF grant, you might find this tutorial helpful as you prepare to close out your project and report final expenses. Closing out a grant for the LGRMIF program involves a few different tasks. So in order to keep this session extra focused, we'll just talk about the final project budget and its associated form, the FS10F. However, to learn more, you can view our modules dedicated to the final narrative, final statistical report, and the final report sign-off form. So let's take a detailed look at the final budget and how to complete it. Before we dive into a live demonstration of how to complete a grant project budget, it's important to know a couple of tips. Line items can only be added to a budget category by an administrator from the New York State Archives Grants Unit. If you amended your budget during your grant project, any necessary line additions should have been completed at that time, since amendments require approval from your New York State Archives Records Advisory Officer. For more information, be sure to view our tutorial about how to amend a grant budget. To access your final project budget, sign into your eGrants account, navigate to the Final Reporting menu, and use the Final Project Budget Expenses Submitted link to visit each budget code that comprised your expenses. Filling in the relevant data in this section automatically populates the FS10F budget form, which you can then print right from eGrants in preparation for mailing to us at the Grants Unit. Another point to keep in mind before working on your final budget is that encumbrance dates and check dates are two different things. An encumbrance date refers to the date that you officially agreed to do business with a vendor. A check date is the date that you actually paid a vendor for their services. Now that we've covered a few helpful hints, let's look at a live demonstration of how it looks when you complete your final budget. So if you're starting from the New York State Archives homepage, which is archives.nised.gov, what you can do is go to the Grants and Awards option on the top menu bar, and then go to the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund link, and that will bring you to the Grants homepage landing page. Now, if you go to the left-hand navigation bar and click on eGrants Apply for a Grant, and then scroll down a little, you'll see the link for logging into the eGrant system. And you put in your username and password. If you need to recover your username or you have forgotten your password, need to reset the password, you can do that right from this homepage. Otherwise, go ahead and sign in. And my page will look a little bit different from what you see because I'm signing in as an administrator, but you should have the option for these are the grant programs you may apply for, and you'll just click on the LGRMIF. And when you sign in, you'll see a list of any grants that your local government has applied for, including the current one. I'll be going to the link for the project that I set up for this demonstration. And when you get to the application checklist, what you'll notice is that you'll remember the initial application link because that's where you went to apply for your grant. And then if you amended your budget, you will have gone to the FS10A amendment link. But for now, we're going to focus on the final reporting option. And when you get there, you'll see that there's quite a few things that you can navigate to. As I mentioned earlier, we're just going to be focusing on the final project budget expenses submitted and the final expenditure report FS10F. And I'm actually going to backtrack a moment here because there's actually a different option that I'd like to show you for doing the final report. We're actually going to navigate to 8734. That's a better one. Okay, so here we are back at the application checklist. We'll go to final reporting. Now, the reason that you'll want to focus first on the final project budget expenses submitted, as opposed to going straight down to the link for the FS10F form, is that the expenses submitted option will allow you to fill in and save your data, which then populates the FS10F form. So let eGrants do some of this work for you so that your FS10F form is all ready to print when you're done. So let's take a look at the expenses submitted. Now, once you navigate to this page, what you'll see is that all of the possible budget categories for the LGRMIF program are listed across the top. So you're going to visit all of the ones that were relevant to your project and fill in your data. And as you can see, for Code 15 professional staff salaries, I had filled in data for a project manager that was being hired for an inactive records project. So what I want to do is report the expenses for the project manager that I hired. You can't fill in any data for something like personnel used or expenses admitted unless you first go to this green edit button at the end. That's how you'll be able to fill in your data for any of your line items. So make sure you click that green button and a window pops up that will let you fill in your data. So we're going to say, yes, we did expend funds for this line item, but let's say that perhaps John Cash was not available when the project started, so we needed to hire somebody else. We'll say that we hired Susan Day, so we're going to put her name in there. If John had been available, we would go ahead and put his name in there because that's the field that eGrants pulls from for the final report. So you want to make sure that you do put a name in there one way or the other. Then we want to put in Susan's dates of employment. We'll say it was October 12th of 21 to March 17th of 2022. And when you fill in these dates, you want to make sure that you use this exact format that you see here. 2 digits for the month, 2 for the day, and 4 for the year, or that could cause problems when you try and submit later on. And we'll say that yes, we paid Susan the full $6,600 that we requested originally. So then you want to make sure that you hit the Save button. And now you'll see all of our data is saved for professional staff salaries. Let's take a look at another code to see what else we can fill in. In purchase services, we said here that we hired the fictitious Smith RM Associates group to do some consulting work for us. So once again, we're going to click on that green edit button to fill in our data for the expense submitted. And we're going to say yes, in fact, we did hire Smith Associates. Now here's the encumbrance date. This is the date that my local government actually agreed to do business with Smith Records Management Associates. And we're going to say that that was September 30th of 2021. And hopefully you'll have better luck typing this in when you do it than I do. Check our journal entry number. So we'll go ahead and fill in. This is from when we actually paid Smith RM Associates. And for the expense submitted, we'll say yes, it was the full $12,000 that we requested. And then we make sure we hit that Save button, and there's our data. Now, the expense approved will remain blank because that's what we fill in the grants unit after you've submitted all of your reports to us and we've gone over everything. When we finalize your final report, we'll fill in the expense approved. So that will stay blank. Let's take a look at one more category. Let's look at supplies and materials. You can see that we said that we were going to order record storage boxes, a fire-resistant filing cabinet, and a step ladder. Let's click on the green edit button for the storage boxes. We're going to say, yes, we did purchase those, and the purchase order date we'll fill in, say that was December of 21. And that our check number was 8707. Vendor used was NIFID. They are a New York State preferred source for record storage boxes, so we want to make sure we use them. And let's say maybe we didn't need quite as many boxes as we thought we were going to, so instead of spending $550, maybe we only spent $475. So you'll fill that number in instead and hit Save. And then we'll do the same for the fire-resistant filing cabinet. We'll say, yes, we did purchase it. The purchase order date in January of 22. And a check date of 8760. We'll say yes, we used the vendor we were planning on using, and the expense came in as we thought at $1,800. And remember, just as we did with the storage boxes, if there was a change there, you'll just fill in the new amount and hit save. Now for the step ladder, let's suppose for some reason maybe we didn't need to buy that after all. We go to that green edit button, and this time you're going to hit the no button, and then you don't need to fill in any of the rest of the information, and you can just hit save because you did not actually expend any funds for that line item. And the remaining budget categories are very similar. You just click the green edit button and make sure that you fill in all the required data. And of course, if you have any questions or problems as you go through that process, you can always give us a call here in the grants unit, and we can help you through any glitches that come up or any questions that you have. When all of your data is filled in and saved, you can navigate back to your post-grant award forms list. And supposing that you have also done your final project narrative and your final statistical report, final report sign-off, you want to then prepare to be submitting everything to us. Now, if you go to the link for the FS10F form and you navigate down to the bottom here, there's an HTML version and a PDF version of the FS10F final budget form. As you can see here, we do prefer the PDF format. So if we click on that and open that up, for you, your local government contact information will fill in at the top of the page. Then there's a brief list of instructions for submitting. And you'll see, and this is what I was telling you about earlier, once you fill in and save data in the expenses submitted section, you'll see that the things that I filled in are now saved to the FS10F form, and it's auto-populated and ready for printing. There's the Smith RM Associates. Here's the supplies and materials, and you'll see for the step ladder that we decided not to purchase, these fields remain blank, and you just get a total of 0 at the end of the column. And if we go all the way down to the last page of the form, you'll see that similar to the FS10 that you submitted at the beginning of the project, all of your category amounts now appear on the last page with your grand total of spending listed at the bottom. And what you'll do is print out 3 copies of this form, have your CAO sign and date in blue ink, and then you'll be submitting those to us in hard copy here at the grants unit. And that address is listed. If you go to the link for the FS10F form, the address is listed right here for you, and you can send those copies to us there. The other important thing to remember as far as submitting final reports is that when all of the electronic portions of your final reporting are done, you want to make sure that you hit this final report submit button at the bottom of the checklist, because that forwards all of the electronic portions to us, lets us know that you finished your project, and also helps us to know that we need to keep an eye out for your FS10F forms coming to us here at the office. So now that you've seen a little preview of what it looks like when you report your project expenses and produce your FS10F budget form, let's do a brief review. You must use the eGrants portal to complete your final budget. Any FS10F form submitted to us from outside eGrants will result in a request by our unit to please complete the reporting in the online system. This means that review of your local government's final report will go into pending status until the data is entered and new forms are submitted. It could also lead to a delay in receiving your final payment. eGrants is the official record of all LGRMIF grants, so all data pertaining to your award needs to be accurately recorded there. Along those same lines, the FS10F form should be printed from eGrants once the expenses submitted section is completed and the data is saved. Once you've printed 3 copies of the FS10F, then had them signed and dated by your CAO, the forms can then be mailed to us in the Cultural Education Center at the address on this slide. And as you saw, the address is also listed in eGrants. Once your budget forms and other components of the final reports are reviewed and approved by the New York State Archives Grants Unit, your budget forms will make their way to our Grants Finance Unit for processing, and ultimately payment of the remainder of your grant funds. If you did not submit any FS25 forms during the course of your project, and your final reports were submitted on time, you should receive the remaining 50% of your award funds. For example, if your total award was $60,000, you would receive $30,000 upfront. Then if you did not submit any FS-25 forms to request additional funds during your project, your final payout should then be $30,000. But let's say that you requested an additional $20,000 during the course of your project. Then your final payout would be $10,000. We hope that this tutorial has been helpful to you, but please do let us know if you have questions about completing your final budget. We can be reached at the phone number or the email address listed in this slide. Thank you.